The Red Wedding in Game of Thrones remains one of the most shocking and traumatic events for fans, depicting a gruesome betrayal where guests, having been offered hospitality, are mercilessly slaughtered in cold blood. This harrowing scene, where trust is shattered and even the meekest can become murderers, is not merely a product of fantasy but draws inspiration from real-life events that were equally, if not more, brutal. Here are two grim events from Scottish history that inspired the infamous Red Wedding in George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones, bringing the tale of betrayal and slaughter to a modern audience. The Massacre of Glencoe, a tale of betrayal and tragedy. In the heart of the Scottish Highlands lay the peaceful village of Glencoe, nestled among the rugged mountains and serene valleys. The year was 1692, a time of political upheaval and mistrust, where ancient loyalties and new allegiances clashed like swords on a battlefield. The winds of winter howled through the glens, carrying whispers of change. King James VII of Scotland had been dethroned, replaced by William III and Mary II. To secure their reign, the new monarchs issued a decree: every clan chief must swear an oath of allegiance by January 1, 1692, or face dire consequences. Among those affected was the Clan MacDonalds and its proud chief Alistair MacLean. Like many Highlanders, he had remained loyal to the old king. But the decree left no room for hesitation, so the chief, who had already sworn an oath to the last king, sent a message to the old king, requesting leave to break his oath. It was December 28th before a messenger arrived with a letter from the former king. This gave MacLean just 3 days to get the newly signed oath to the Secretary of State. Interestingly, this Secretary of State, John Dalrymple, who was a lowlander, hated the Clan MacDonald. So as the deadline loomed, MacLean braved treacherous weather and perilous terrain, arriving at Fort William on December 31st, 1691. There, he was informed he must journey further to Inverray, the town of the rival Clan Campbell, to swear the oath. Battling snow and ice, he finally pledged his loyalty on January 6, 1692, believing his clan was now safe. Unbeknownst to MacLean, his delayed oath had sealed the fate of his people. Sir John Dalrymple sought an example to quell any rebellious spirit among the Highland clans. He rejected the MacDonalds' belated sworn allegiance to William and set plans to cut the clan down, root and branch. In early February, as the snow lay heavy on the ground, a detachment of 120 government troops under the command of Captain Robert Campbell arrived in Glencoe. These men came not as conquerors, but as guests asking for shelter and food as the nearby fortress was full. The MacDonalds, known for their legendary hospitality, welcomed them with open arms, offering food, warmth, and shelter. For nearly 2 weeks, the soldiers lived among the villagers, sharing their firesides and stories. On the night of February 12, 1692, the air was crisp and clear, the sky adorned with a blanket of stars. The villagers of Glencoe slept peacefully after playing cards with their guests as Captain Campbell received a set of chilling orders from his superiors: "You are hereby ordered to fall upon the rebels, the MacDonalds of Glencoe, and put all to the sword under 70. Just before dawn, the tranquility of the village was shattered. The soldiers, who had eaten and slept under the same roofs as their hosts, turned on them with ruthless efficiency. Homes were set ablaze, and the cries of the MacDonalds echoed through the glen as they were slaughtered in their beds. Women and children, too, fell victim to the merciless blades. Some managed to flee into the frozen wilderness, only to perish from exposure in the bitter cold. By the time the sun rose over the snow-covered peaks, Glencoe was a scene of devastation. 38 members of the MacDonald clan lay dead, victims of a calculated and cold-blooded massacre. The survivors, their numbers dwindled by the elements, were left to mourn their kin and curse the treachery that had befallen them. The Massacre of Glencoe remains etched in the annals of Scottish history as a tale of treachery and tragedy. It is considered especially awful because it was slaughter under trust. Sound familiar? Each year, descendants and visitors alike gather in the glen to remember the fallen, their spirits lingering in the mist that clings to the mountains. To this day, the door at Clacheg Inn in Glencoe has a sign on the door denying entry to Campbell's. The second event in Scottish history was the Black Dinner of 1440, a grim tale of political treachery. In the annals of Scottish history, few events are as chilling as the Black Dinner of 1440. It's a story of youthful innocence, political intrigue, and brutal betrayal, set against the backdrop of a power struggle in medieval Scotland. The year was 1440, and Scotland was a land fraught with tension and strife. The nation was ruled by the young King James II, just 10 years old at the time. In his stead, a regency government composed of powerful nobles managed the affairs of the kingdom. Among these nobles, the powerful Douglas family stood out, controlling vast lands and commanding great influence. This prominence made them both formidable allies and dangerous rivals. At the heart of this tale were 2 young members of the Douglas family: William Douglas, the 6th Earl of Douglas, who was just 16 years old, and his younger brother David. Despite their youth, they inherited immense power and responsibility following the death of their father, the 5th Earl of Douglas. Their rise to power, however, was viewed with suspicion and fear by other noble families, particularly the Crichtons and Livingstons, who held significant influence over the young king and his court. To curb the power of the Douglases, Sir William Crichton, the Chancellor of Scotland, and Sir Alexander Livingston, the custodian of the young king, devised a sinister plan. They extended an invitation to the young Earl of Douglas and his brother to visit Edinburgh Castle under the guise of fostering unity and goodwill among the leading noble families. Trusting in the hospitality and honor of their hosts, the Douglases accepted the invitation and traveled to the castle. On a cold November evening, a grand feast was prepared in the great hall of Edinburgh Castle. The young Douglases were treated with the utmost courtesy and respect, seated at a lavishly set table. Music played, laughter echoed, and the feast progressed with a sense of deceptive camaraderie. However, as the evening wore on, the atmosphere took a dark turn. In a moment that would etch itself into infamy, a black bull's head was dropped into the hall, in the center of the dinner table, shocking both the boy king and the young earl. In Scottish symbolism, this was an ominous sign, a harbinger of death. The mood shifted abruptly from jovial to deadly serious. The young Douglases, realizing the gravity of their situation, were swiftly seized by the guards. The charges against them were bogus, but the outcome was predetermined. The trial, if it could be called that, was a mere formality. Despite their youth and pleas for mercy, both William and David Douglas were condemned to death. In the cold courtyard of Edinburgh Castle, under a sky darkened by the gathering night, the two boys were executed by beheading. The brutal and sudden nature of their deaths shocked the kingdom, and the event became known as the Black Dinner. However, the Black Dinner did not achieve its intended goal of quelling the power of the Douglas family. Instead, it stoked the flames of vengeance and enmity. The ruthless elimination of the young Douglases only served to deepen the fissures within the Scottish nobility, leading to further conflict and bloodshed. The Black Dinner left an indelible mark on Scottish history and folklore. It is often cited as a cautionary tale of treachery and the perils of political ambition. To this day, the Black Dinner stands as a stark reminder of the brutal and often treacherous nature of medieval politics. The innocent lives of the young Douglases were caught in the web of power struggles, leaving behind a legacy of sorrow and a dark chapter in Scotland's storied past. And there you have it, the harrowing tales of the Massacre of Glencoe and the Black Dinner of 1440. These real-life events of betrayal and slaughter inspired George R.R. Martin's infamous Red Wedding in Game of Thrones. Through these stories, we see how history often holds the darkest and most chilling accounts of treachery, where hospitality is shattered by cold-blooded murder, leaving a legacy of sorrow and warning. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, please like, share, and subscribe for more intriguing stories from the past. And remember, sometimes the truth is stranger and more brutal than fiction.